Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. How are you all doing? نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي ربنا زدنا علما. So we covered the bab, the tarjuma, the chapter heading, الجمع بين السورتين في الركعة والقراءة بالخواتيم وبسورة قبل سورة وبأول سورة. Reciting two surahs in one rak'ah or the last ayat of a surah, or surahs in reverse order, or the beginning of a surah. And inshallah now we're going to read the ahadith. وقال عبيد الله عن ثابت عن أنس رضي الله عنه كان رجل من الأنصار. He said that a man from the Ansar يأمهم في مسجد قباء, that he used to lead them in prayer in Masjid Quba. Notice the word يأمهم. What's the root? What's the main word that it's coming from? Imam, right? Amma. So he used to lead them in prayer in the Masjid of Quba. وكان, and he used to, كلما, every time, افتتح سورة, he began a surah, he began the recitation of a surah, and this would obviously be when? After Surah Al-Fatiha. So every time he would have to recite a surah, يقرأ, he would recite بها لهم في الصلاة مما يقرأ به, meaning every time he wanted to recite a surah for them in prayer, he would begin the recitation with بقل هو الله أحد, with the recitation of قل هو الله أحد. So every time he had to recite, what would he do first? Surah Al-Ikhlas. حتى يفرغ منها, until he became free of it, meaning he completed the recitation of Surah Al-Ikhlas. ثم then يقرأ سورة أخرى معها. Then he would recite a surah أخرى, another معها, with it. So you understand? Every time he had to recite a surah, first he would recite Surah Al-Ikhlas, and then he would recite another surah. So how many surahs would he be reciting? At least 2. Okay? At least 2 surahs in every rak'ah after Surah Al-Fatiha. Now, what does this prove? That you can recite more than 1 surah in 1 rak'ah. وَكَانَ يَصْنَعُ ذَلِكَ, and he would do that فِي كُلِّ رَكْعَةٍ, in every rak'ah. Meaning, every salah, because he was the imam, so Fajr, Maghrib, Isha, for every salah, what would he do? Every single rak'ah, he would recite Surah Al-Ikhlas also. فَكَلَّمَهُ أَصْحَابُهُ, so his companions spoke to him, meaning the people who were with him, they spoke to him. فَقَالُوا, so they said, إِنَّكَ, indeed you, تَفْتَتِحُ بِهَذِهِ السُّورَةِ, you always begin with this surah. ثُمَّ لَا تَرَى أَنَّهَا تُجْزِئُكَ, then you don't think that it is enough for you, تُجْزِئُكَ, meaning you don't think that it is sufficient for you, حتى until تقرأ بأخرى, you recite another. Why is it that you don't think the recitation of Surah Al-Ikhlas is sufficient? Why do you always have to recite another surah with it? فَإِمَّا أَن تَقْرَأ بِهَا, either you recite this surah, وَتَقْرَأ بِأُخْرى, وَإِمَّا, and or أَن تَدَعَهَا, that you leave it, وَتَقْرَأ بِأُخْرى, and you read another surah. So either you read Surah Al-Ikhlas, or you don't read Surah Al-Ikhlas and you read a different surah. Why is it that you have to read 2 surahs every time? فَقَالَ, so he said, مَا أَنَا بِتَارِكِهَا, I am not going to leave this surah. إِنْ أَحْبَبْتُمْ, if you want, أَنْ أَؤُمَّكُمْ, that I should lead you, بِذَلِكَ, with that, فَعَلْتُ, what I do, meaning if you want me to lead you, then this is what I'm going to do. I'm always going to recite Surah Al-Ikhlas in every rak'ah. وَإِن كَرِهْتُمْ, and if you dislike it, تَرَكْتُكُمْ, I will leave you. Meaning I'm not going to lead you in prayer. Then you have to go find another imam. وَكَانُوا, and they used to, يَرَوْنَ, they would see, that أَنَّهُ, that indeed he, مِنْ أَفْضَلِهِمْ, the best of them. The people of Quba, they knew that this man was the best of them. Best of them in what sense? He knew the most Qur'an. Okay, so he was the most worthy of being the imam. وَكَرِهُ, and they disliked أَن يَأُمَّهُمْ غَيْرُهُ, that someone else should lead them. Meaning they didn't want to lose him either. They didn't want somebody else to lead them. فَلَمَّا أَتَاهُمُ النَّبِيُّ صَلَى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ. And when the Prophet ﷺ came to them, أَخْبَرُوهُ الْخَبْرَ. They informed him about this news, about what had been happening. فَقَالَ. So the Prophet ﷺ said, يَا فُلَانِ, O so and so, مَا يَمْنَعُكَ, what stops you, أَن تَفْعَلَ, that you do, مَا يَأْمُرُكَ, what he commands you, bihi, with it, أصحابك, your companions. Meaning, why don't you listen to your companions? وَمَا يَحْمِلُكَ, and what makes you, عَلَى لُزُومِ هَذِهِ السُّورَةِ, on the luzum of this surah. Luzum, to adhere firmly. Meaning, what is it that makes you, recite this surah always? Why don't you leave it sometimes? And why don't you listen to your companions? في كل ركعة, meaning in every rak'ah you have to recite the surah. فقال, so he said, إني أحبها, indeed I love it. I love the surah. And I love it too much that I cannot leave it. I have to recite it in every rak'ah. فقال, so the Prophet ﷺ said, حُبُّكَ إِيَّاهَا أَدْخَلَكَ الْجَنَّةِ. Your love for this surah will make you enter Jannah. This surah, you love it, it will make you enter Jannah. And this surah, in fact, is very beautiful. Because Surah Al-Ikhlas, it talks about who? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, His oneness and His unique attributes. It is indeed very beautiful. And reciting it frequently, definitely, is a means of entering Jannah. This hadith is an example. How the Prophet ﷺ said, حُبُّكَ إِيَّاهَا أَدْخَلَكَ الْجَنَّةِ. In another hadith, which is in al-Sittah al-Sahihah, we learned that the Prophet ﷺ said, مَنْ قَرَأَ قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٍ, whoever recites قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٍ 10 times, Allah will make for him a palace in Jannah. Whoever recites قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٍ 10 times, Allah will make for him a palace in Jannah. Umar radiallahu anhu said, then we will have many palaces. Meaning, it's such an easy way to have, so many palaces, so many homes in Jannah. So the Prophet ﷺ said, indeed, Allah has even more and better than that. He has even more and better than that. Don't worry. Don't worry. It's really up to you. How much you recite, that is how much benefit you're going to get. In another hadith we learned, which is in Musnad Ahmad, Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu said that the Prophet ﷺ, once he heard a man read this surah, he was reciting قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٍ. The Prophet ﷺ said, وَجَبَتْ. Wajabat. What does wajabat mean? It has become obligatory. It has become mandatory. So the people said, O Messenger of Allah, what has become wajib? What has become mandatory? He said, وَجَبَتْ لَهُ الْجَنَّةِ. Jannah has become mandatory for this man. And both of these ahadith are sahih. So what do we learn? That Surah Al-Ikhlas, reciting it frequently, with heart, with meaning, with sincerity, with love, this is definitely a means of entering Jannah. Now, in this hadith, what is the proof that Imam Bukhari is taking? Exactly. The 2 surahs can be recited in 1 rak'ah. It is not necessary to recite only 1 surah. One may recite 2 surahs also in 1 rak'ah. Now, you see, if this man is reciting Surah Al-Ikhlas in every rak'ah, and after that he would recite another surah. Which surah comes after Surah Al-Ikhlas? Al-Falaq. And which one is after that? An-Nas. And then finished. Right? So, if he would only recite the surahs which come after Surah Al-Ikhlas, then he would have only the option of 2 surahs. Okay? But we would understand that if he was the best of his people, then he knew more Qur'an than that. And he would recite other surahs also. So, which proves to us the other point that Imam Bukhari was making in the bab, which is that you can reverse the order of the surahs also. Reverse the order, change the order, in the sense that in the Mus'haf, you have the surahs arranged in a particular order. But in Salah, you can change that order. So, for example, after Surah Al-Ikhlas, can a person recite Surah Al-Kawthar? Yes, even though Surah Al-Kawthar comes before Surah Al-Ikhlas in the Mus'haf, yes, he can. He still can. Because following this order, this is not mandatory. And this changing of the order, this is known as tankis. tankis. ثُمَّ نُكِسُوا عَلَى رُؤُوسِهِمْ. It means to turn back, right? To change the order. So reading later parts of the Quran before earlier parts, this is known as tankis. And there are different types of tankis. And this is necessary to understand. First of all, first type of tankis is tankis of huruf, which is to change the order of the letters. Okay? So for example, a word Rabb. Rabb. What letters do we have here? Ra and Ba. Now, tankis of huruf would be to change the order of the huruf. So Ba is coming first and Ra is coming second. So from Rabb, a person reads it as Bar. Now this kind of tankis is haram. It's forbidden. Why? Because changing the huruf means changing the words. Changing the words means changing the meaning. Tahrif. Right? So this kind of change, tankis is not permissible. Now it's very important that when we recite clearly and properly. Because sometimes when we're rushing in our recitation, literally we change the order of the huruf. And that can change the meaning. The second type of tankis is tankis of kalimat. Kalimat meaning words, which is to change the order of the words. So for example, قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ. قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ. قُلْ is a kalima. And where does that come in the ayah? At the beginning. But if a person puts قُلْ right at the end, so he says, أَحَدْ اللَّهُ وَقُلْ, or he reverses the order completely, then this is also haram. This is also forbidden. This kind of changing the order is not permissible. Why? Because again, this is a type of tahrif. This is changing the meaning completely. The third type of tankis is tankisul ayat. Changing the order of the verses. Reversing the order of the ayat. Okay? So for example, قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ النَّاسِ. What comes next? Malikin nas. What comes next? Ilahin nas. Then من شر الوسواس الخناس الذي يوسوس في صدور الناس من الجنة والناس. If a person reverses the order, reads it backwards, okay? So for example, he reads it as من شر الوسواس الخناس, okay? And then إله الناس. This is changing the order. This kind of tankis is also allowed or not? Not allowed. Not at all. Because it's going to change the meaning completely. The fourth type of tankis is tankis as-surah, meaning inversion of the surah, so changing the order of the surahs. Is this permissible? Yes, it is permissible. Why? Because it's proven from the sunnah. The Prophet ﷺ recited Surat An-Nisa before Surat Ali Imran. Okay? Whereas Ali Imran comes first and An-Nisa comes next. But he changed the order. Okay? So we learned that after reciting Surah Al-Baqarah, the Prophet ﷺ recited Surah Al-Nisa, and then he recited Ali Imran. So he changed the order. Now, why is it that this kind of tankis is permissible? Because the arrangement of the letters, the arrangement of the words, the arrangement of the surahs, of the ayat, this is all based on revelation. This is all based on revelation. This is how the Quran was revealed. This order, this arrangement was instructed by who? By the Prophet ﷺ. This is how he taught the Quran to the people. So this is why we cannot change the order. But when it comes to the arrangement of the surahs, according to many ulama, this was the arrangement that the companions gave. Okay? Or this was not based on revelation. And you know that when the Quran was revealed, it was not revealed in this order. Okay? Surah Al-Fatiha was not the first surah to be revealed. Surah Al-Baqarah was not the second surah to be revealed. Right? So, if the arrangement was changed in this way, that when the Mus'haf was put together, it was not, the surahs were not arranged in a chronological order, you can say, then this means that the order can also be changed when a person is reciting the Quran. There is no harm in that. But when it comes to the arrangement of the letters, of the words, of the ayat, then that is based on revelation, and that we cannot change, alter at all. Okay, again, if you skip a few verses in the middle, in the same then it gets confusing. Okay, it gets confusing. And yes, there might be a link in the meaning, but there's a reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put those 20 or 50 or 5 verses between these ayat. Okay? So we have to respect the arrangement that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given, and we cannot change that. However, if you want to recite, let's say, the first few verses of a surah in the first rak'ah, and then the last few verses of the same surah in the second rak'ah, that is fine. But in the same rak'ah, that is not appropriate. حدثنا آدم قال حدثنا شعبة عن عمرو بن مرة قال سمعت أبا وائل قال جاء رجل إلى ابن مسعود. He said, a man came to Ibn Mas'ud. فقال, so he said, قرأت المفصل. He said, I recited the mufassal. What are the mufassal surahs? From Surah Qaf all the way to Surah An-Nas. He said, I recited all of them. الليلة, in one night, في ركعة, in one rak'ah. He said, I recited all the mufassal surahs in one rak'ah, one night. فقال, so Ibn Mas'ud said, هَذًّا كَهَذِّ الشِّعْرِ. You recited all those surahs like shi'r, like poetry is recited? How is poetry recited sometimes? Very fast. For example, spoken word poetry. It's read so fast that, you lose the person in the middle. You have to pay a lot of attention to make sure that you are getting every word. Because otherwise, you'll miss so much meaning. Right? So, hadh is to read out shi'r, to read out poetry quickly. With surah. Okay? So, he said, hadhan ka hadh al-shi'ri? You recited all those surahs in one rak'ah, like poetry is read fast? He said, laqad, certainly, araftu, I know, an-nadha'ir, the corresponding surahs. Nadha'ir is a plural of nadhir. And what does nadhir mean? One that is similar to, one that is equivalent to, one that is equal to another. That matches the another. That corresponds with another. Okay? So, for example, nid, the word nid, partner, equal, rival. Another synonym for that is nadhir, equivalent, similar to. Okay? So he said that I know the nadha'ir, the corresponding surahs, allati which كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم, which the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم used to, يقرن, he would join, بينهن, between them. Meaning, I know about those surahs which the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم would join together, meaning their recitation, in his salah. He would join them in his salah. فذكر, so he mentioned, 20 suratan, about 20 surahs, من المفصل, from the mufassal surahs, suratayn, 2 surahs that the Prophet ﷺ would join together, fi kulli rak'ah, in every rak'ah. So you understand what he's saying? That you read all of these surahs in one rak'ah, whereas the way of the Prophet ﷺ was that he would only read 2 surahs, maximum that he would combine was how many surahs? 2 only, in one rak'ah. Okay? 2 surahs from the mufassal in one rak'ah. And then Ibn Mas'ud, he mentioned about 20 surahs that the Prophet ﷺ would combine, meaning 2 each of those 20, okay, in each rak'ah. So in another version of the hadith, which is in Abu Dawud, we learn that the Prophet ﷺ would recite, for example, he would join Surah Al-Najm and Surah Al-Rahman in one rak'ah. Surah Al-Najm and Surah Al-Rahman in one rak'ah. He wouldn't recite Qaf, Najm, Rahman, Waqi'ah, 5, 6, 7, 8 surahs in one rak'ah. No. Maximum he would join how many? 2. Likewise, he would join Surah Iqtarabat, which is Surah Al-Qamar, and Surah Al-Haqqa. Surah Al-Qamar and Surah Al-Haqqa in one rak'ah. Likewise, he would join Surah Al-Tur and Surah Al-Dhariyat in one rak'ah. Likewise, he would join Surah Al-Waqi'ah and Surah Noon in one rak'ah. He would join Surah Al-Ma'arij and Al-Nazi'at in one rak'ah. He would join Surah Al-Mutaffifin and Abasa. Mutaffifin and Abasa in one rak'ah. Likewise, sometimes he would join Surah Al-Muddathir and Al-Muzzammil. Now, if you notice the surahs of the Prophet ﷺ joining together, Ibn Mas'ud, he described them as nazair. They were similar. How are they similar? In their meaning. So, for example, Muddathir, Muzammil, they're so similar in meaning. Surah Al-Insan, Surah Al-Qiyamah. Because they also mention, both of them mention Jannah and Nar. Right? The people of Jannah, the people of Nar. Likewise, he would join Surah Naba, Surah Mursalat. Okay? In one rak'ah. He would recite Surah Al-Dukhan, Surah Al-Takwir in one rak'ah. So these were the 20 surahs that Ibn Mas'ud mentioned, how the Prophet ﷺ would join between them in his prayers. That maximum 2 in one rak'ah, not more than that. Clear? So what's the sunnah that we learn from this? Maximum 2 surahs per rak'ah. And which surahs? Those which are similar in their meaning, not necessarily in their length. Because if you think about it, Surah Al-Dukhan is very long, and Surah Al-Takwir, very short compared to it. I mean, not that Surah Al-Dukhan is a very, very long surah, but it's long compared to Surah Al-Takwir. But the Prophet ﷺ is reading them together. Why? Because the meaning is similar. The message is similar. So this is something that we also need to keep in mind. And you see, when you recite in this way, that you keep the meaning in mind, then what happens? You're paying better attention. Right? Otherwise, we're just reading without even thinking about what we're reciting. Okay. Yaqrunu, yaqrinu, same thing. It's just read in different ways. It's the same word. From qarana. What does qarana mean? To join together. And this is one of the explanations of the word Quran that some scholars have given, that it is from the root qaf ra nun, to join together. Because in the Quran, many messages, good messages, advice, stories, commands, warnings are combined together. They're mentioned together. Okay. Yesterday somebody asked a question that the Imam, when he is reciting, okay, in Jahri Salah, he is reciting the Quran out loud. Okay? The munfarid, the person who is praying by himself, is he supposed to recite the Quran out loud also? In Fajr prayer, Maghrib prayer, Isha prayer. Now, earlier remember what I mentioned to you, that whatever rule applies to the Imam, it also applies to the munfarid. So keeping that in mind, many scholars, they have said that the munfarid, he can also recite out loud. It is better that he recites out loud, okay? Loud in the sense that he can hear himself, not that everybody in the house can hear them. But if the situation is such that it would be better for them to recite silently, then that is also okay. Okay? So for example, Shaykh ibn Uthaymeen, he said, if a person is praying alone, then he has the choice between reciting out loud or silently. He should look at what is more likely to increase his focus and humility in prayer and do that. So whatever will add to the khushu', that is what he should do. So for example, in Fajr prayer, when usually everyone is quiet and you are reciting out loud, meaning softly in the sense that you can hear yourself, then that helps with khushu'. Reciting out loud, especially the long surahs, it helps you, recite correctly, pay better attention. But for instance, Maghrib, okay, or for instance, Isha, when there are people around you, you might find it, more comfortable to recite softly. So it's up to you really. Whatever is helpful for your khushu', you may do that. Another question is from this, that can a woman do that? Is a woman also allowed to recite loudly? Ibn Qudama said a woman may recite out loud in prayers where Quran is recited out loud. But if there are men present, and obviously these men are the non-mahram, then she should not recite out loud unless they are her mahram, in which case she may do that. Okay? Bab يقرأ في الأخريين بفاتحة الكتاب. يقرأ, he should recite. Who? The musalli. في الأخريين, in the last 2 rak'ah. بفاتحة الكتاب. What should he recite? فاتحة الكتاب. What is that? Surah Al-Fatiha. Meaning in the last 2 rak'ah, the musalli should only recite which surah? الفاتحة, not more than that. حدثنا موسى بن إسماعيل قال حدثنا همام عن يحيى عن عبد الله بن أبي قتادة عن أبيه أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم كان يقرأ في الظهر في الأوليين, that the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم would recite in ظهر صلاة في الأوليين, in the first two rak'ah, بأم الكتاب, Surah Al-Fatiha, وسورتين, and two surahs, meaning a surah in each rak'ah. Suratain does not mean that after Surah Al-Fatiha he would recite two surahs. What it means is two surahs in total, so one surah each in every rak'ah. وَفِي الرَّكَعَتَيْنِ الْأُخْرَيَيْنِ, and in the last two rak'ah, بِأُمِّ الْكِتَاب, with Al-Kitab, meaning only Surah Al-Fatiha. وَيُسْمِعُنَا الْآيَةِ, and sometimes he would also make us hear an ayah, meaning he would recite it loudly so that we could hear him. وَيُطَوِّلُ فِي الرَّكَعَةِ الْأُولَى, and he would make the first rak'ah long, مَا لَا يُطَوِّلُ فِي الرَّكَعَةِ الثَّانِيَةِ, that he would not in the second rak'ah, meaning the first rak'ah would be longer compared to the second rak'ah. وَهَكَذَا فِي الْعَصْرِ وَهَكَذَا فِي الصُّبْحِ, and this is how he was in Asr prayer as well as in Fajr prayer, meaning the first rak'ah was longer than the second rak'ah. Now, what's the benefit of this? That the first rak'ah is longer than the second rak'ah, and in the third and fourth rak'ah, you're only reciting Surah Al-Fatiha. Okay, there is benefit in this, that when the Imam is leading, and there are people who are coming in to join, okay, then if the first rak'ah is long, then, it will help people catch up. Right? More people can join the salah, and they won't miss the first rak'ah. Yes? Because you see, whether the person is Imam or Munfarid, when he prays in this manner, first rak'ah is long, second is slightly shorter, and the last two are only Surah Al-Fatiha, then what happens is that with every rak'ah, salah becomes easier. It becomes easier. Because when you begin something, at the beginning you have the energy and the motivation. But what happens is that it is only natural that by the end, as you move on, you kind of lose that motivation. So in order to make salah easy for people, because you have to pray 5 times a day, Ramadan, yes, with each day, especially the end of Ramadan, it only intensifies. That is a different situation because it's only once a year. But salah is 5 times a day. So it makes it easier like that. يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ بِكُمُ الْيُسْرَ وَلَا يُرِيدُ بِكُمُ الْعُسْرَ. But remember that sometimes the second rak'ah may be longer than the first one. There is no harm in that. Maybe. باب من خافت القراءة في الظهر والعصر. من خافت, the one who خافت. What does خافت mean? To keep quiet. Right? وَلَا تُخَافِت. To keep silent, to keep quiet. So the one who keeps silent, القراءة, the recitation في الظهر والعصر, in Dhuhr and Asr prayer. Meaning he does not make that recitation loud, he does not make it audible. Other people cannot hear it. Whether إمام or مأموم. حدثنا قتيبة بن سعيد قال حدثنا جرير عن الأعمش عن عمارة بن عمير عن أبي معمر قلت لخباب أكان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقرأ في الظهر والعصر قال نعم قلنا من أين علمت قال باضطراب لحيته. This hadith we have read many times before. Now, what do we learn in this hadith? That the companions, they saw the Prophet ﷺ's beard moving in Dhuhr and Asr prayer, which meant that he was reciting, but how was he reciting? Quietly. And this shows to us that Dhuhr and Asr prayer, whether Imam, Ma'moom or Munfarid, everyone has to recite silently. What's the hikmah? What's the benefit? Okay, everyone can read on their own. In Fajr, Maghrib, Isha, the Imam is reading and people are listening. But for Dhuhr and Asr, everyone has to recite themselves. Is there a difference between listening to recitation and reciting yourself? What's the benefit? What's the difference rather? Okay, when you are reading yourself, it helps you pay better attention. Okay? It requires more focus. Good. But what about listening? Doesn't that help you focus also? It helps you. Yes, that sometimes we pay better attention when we are listening. Now, you see, 2 prayers you have to read yourself. 3 prayers you listen to the recitation. So with this there is a balance. There is a balance. You get to recite yourself and you also get to listen. If it was only listening, people would not bother to memorize any Quran themselves. And if it was only reciting, then how would people hear the recitation? I mean, everywhere you don't have Quran CDs available, right? Recording available. Remember the Prophet ﷺ, at certain occasions, he asked certain companions, recite the Quran to me. Recite the Quran to me. So this was kind of unusual, just listening to the Quran. For us it's become, very common. So with this some prayers recite yourself, other prayers listen to the recitation. There is a beautiful balance, and it also helps with the recitation. Shaykh Abdullah bin Jubreen, he said, it was decreed that recitation in Zuhr and Asr should be done silently, because the time of these prayers is during the day. And at that time, a person's mind may be preoccupied with a lot of thoughts, as he is busy with his work, or trade, or manufacturing. Meaning he's busy with his work, so he's distracted. If the recitation were to be done out loud, his mind would be distracted, and he would not listen attentively to the Imam's recitation. Because he's not reciting himself, his mind would just wander away. Okay, he'd be thinking about the work, the cooking, the chores. He would not listen to it or devote his attention to it. Rather, other things would come to mind and distract him. So he was commanded to recite to himself, so that his recitation will make him think and ponder. He said, it is well known that if people pray in congregation for Dhuhr or Asr prayer, they should not recite out loud, because then they would distract one another. So, first of all, everyone has to recite. And secondly, everyone has to recite silently. Why? So that everyone can pay attention. So both the Imam and the one who is praying behind him are enjoined to recite silently. But with regard to the prayers that are offered during the night, in most cases people are free from distractions. So the Imam is enjoined to recite out loud so that others may benefit from his recitation. So for example, at Fajr time, you're generally not distracted because it's just the beginning of the day. Right? At Maghrib, at Isha, you're done with your work. Mostly. Right? So you're not that distracted. And especially remember that this is for the men, because they are praying in congregation. So there is a lot of hikmah in this. Why certain prayers are to be recited silently and others loudly. Shaykh Ibn Baz, he said, Allah knows best the reason why it is prescribed to recite out loud in those prayers. The most likely reason, and Allah knows best, is that at night and at the time of Fajr prayer, people are more likely to benefit from recitation that is done out loud, as there are less distractions around them than at any time of Dhuhr and Asr. So again, same thing he said. Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen, he said, the reason why it is recited out loud is, and Allah knows best, firstly, so as to unite the people behind one Imam. So this is also a benefit. Fajr, Maghrib, Isha, when the Imam is reciting, everyone is united behind the Imam. Because if they're united behind one Imam and listening attentively to him, that is a better form of unity than if each of them were recite to himself. Okay? And in order to achieve this, the people must all be gathered in one place, okay, praying behind one Imam, listening to his recitation, except in the cases of necessity, meaning that is a different situation. So there is hikmah in this also. Bab إِذَا أَسْمَعَ الْإِمَامُ الْآيَةِ. When the Imam asma'a, what does asma'a mean? He makes to hear, because it's bab if'al, those of you who are familiar with grammar. Sami'a, to hear himself. Asma'a yusmi'u isma', to make someone else hear. How would you make someone else hear? By reading loudly. Now, in which salah is this supposed to be done? Obviously in Jahri Salah. But Imam Bukhari is talking about which Salah? Sirri Salah. The silent prayer, which is Dhuhr and Asr. That when the Imam recites one ayah here and there out loud so that the people can hear him. حدثنا محمد بن يوسف حدثنا الأوزاعي حدثني يحيى بن أبي كثير حدثني عبد الله بن أبي قتادة عن أبيه أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم كان يقرأ بأم الكتاب وسورة معها في الركعتين الأوليين. That the Prophet ﷺ would recite with Surah Al-Fatiha, a surah with it, in the first two rak'ah, min salat al-zuhri wa salat al-asri, in Zuhr and Asr prayer. وَيُسْمِعُنَا الْآيَةَ أَحْيَانًا. And at times he would also make us hear an ayah. وَكَانَ يُطِيلُ فِي الرَّكْعَةِ الْأُولَى. And he would make the first rak'ah long. We have read similar ahadith earlier, the message is clear. Bab يُطَوِّلُ فِي الرَّكْعَةِ الْأُولَى, making the first rak'ah long, meaning in all the prayers. every prayer, whether it is fard or it is sunnah, whether it is fajr or it is zuhr, whether a person is reading himself or he is leading as imam, what has to be done? That the first rak'ah should be longer compared to the second one. And this is especially when a person is leading others. Why make the first rak'ah long? So that more people can catch the first rak'ah. حدثنا أبو نعيم حدثنا هشام عن يحيى بن أبي كثير عن عبد الله بن أبي قتادة عن أبيه أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم كان يطول في الركعة الأولى من صلاة الظهر ويقصر في الثانية. That the Prophet ﷺ, his way was that he would make the first rak'ah long and the second rak'ah short. In which salah? ظهر صلاة. ويقصر في الثانية, and he would make the second rak'ah short. ويفعل ذلك في صلاة الصبح, and he would also do that in the Fajr prayer. باب جهل الإمام بالتأمين. Now, after recitation, Imam Bukhari is talking about ta'meen. What is ta'meen? To say Ameen. So the next few bab will be about the issue of Ameen. So, Jahr al-Imam. The Imam, he is doing Jahr, meaning he's saying out loud. What is he saying out loud? Bit-ta'meen, meaning the ta'meen, saying Ameen. So the Imam saying Ameen aloud. When? After reciting Surah Al-Fatiha. That he says it as loud as he recited Surah Al-Fatiha. You understand? Now, majority of the scholars, they are of the opinion that the Imam should say the Ameen out loud. Out loud, so that the people behind him can hear him say Ameen. And there are only a few scholars, for example Abu Hanifa or Imam Malik, who said that either the Ameen should not be said at all, or that it should be said silently. But we see that majority of the ahadith, what do they prove? That the Ameen should be said out loud. How should it be said? Out loud. And now we said that Ameen is sunnah for every worshipper after Surah Al-Fatiha. Meaning, whether a person is praying himself, or Imam, or Ma'mum, saying Ameen is sunnah for everyone, whether he is leading the prayer, or is following an Imam, or praying alone. For men, women, and children. Men have to say Ameen, women also have to say Ameen, and children should also be taught to say Ameen. And many children, they love to say Ameen. Whether they are praying standing up, or they are praying sitting down, or they are praying lying down. Whether they are praying an obligatory prayer, or a nafil prayer. Whether the prayer is one in which Qur'an is recited silently, or out loud. Meaning Zuhr prayer, or Maghrib prayer. Every single salah. There is no difference of opinion concerning this among any of our companions. Because Ameen is a part of Surah Al-Fatiha. Okay? Because the Prophet ﷺ said that when the Imam says غَيْرِ الْمَغْضُوبِ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا الضَّالِّينَ, then you should say Ameen. Another hadith tells us that when the Imam says it, the angels say Ameen. So what does it mean? Saying Ameen is a part of Surah Al-Fatiha. So when a person is required to say Surah Al-Fatiha in every prayer, prayer is invalid without the recitation of Surah Al-Fatiha, then that means saying Ameen is also necessary. An-Nawawi also said that if the prayer is one in which Qur'an is recited silently. Okay, now remember, two kinds of prayers, right? One in which Qur'an is recited silently, and the other in which Qur'an is recited loudly. He said if the Qur'an is recited silently, then the Imam and others should say Ameen silently, following the manner of recitation. And if it is a prayer in which Qur'an is recited out loud, then it is mustahab for the members of the congregation to say Ameen out loud. There is no difference of opinion on this point. وَقَالَ عَطَاءٌ Ata said, Ameen du'a'un. Ameen is dua. Meaning saying Ameen, this is dua. Because what does Ameen mean? It means Allahumma stajib. Oh Allah, accept our dua, answer our dua. This is what Ameen means. So, Surah Al-Fatiha, at the end, what are you doing? You're making a dua, right? اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. This is a dua. So when you make a dua, what do you say? Oh Allah, please accept. And how do you say that in Arabic? By saying Ameen. And what is the correct way of pronouncing the word Ameen? Is it Ameen with a shadda on the meme? No. If you put a shadda on the meme, Ameen, then what does that mean? Ameen al-Bayt. Those intending. Okay? Those intending. So Ameen means it's ism jama. Okay? Those who are intending to do something. That's not what we mean. Okay? Likewise, if a person says Ameen, what does that mean? Ameen. Trustworthy. This is what? Ameen. Alif has a mad on it. Meme has no shadda. And after the meme is a ya. Ameen. So it's necessary to pronounce it correctly. Just as we pronounce the words of Surah Al-Fatiha correctly. So Ameen must also be pronounced correctly. Amman ibn al-Zubayri. Now over here Imam Bukhari is mentioning different statements or mu'allaqat or portions of ahadith that he will mention later. Amman ibn al-Zubayri. Ibn Zubayr, he ammana. Meaning he said Ameen. He said Ameen, وَمَنْ وَرَاءَهُ, and also those behind him, meaning those who were praying behind him. So, Imam and Ma'mum, all of them are saying Ameen, حَتَّى until إِنَّ لِلْمَسْجِدِ لَلَجَّةً, that for the masjid was a lajjah, meaning an echoing sound. It was so loud that Ameen, everyone is saying Ameen together, that it was almost echoing. It could be heard everywhere, in the masjid, even outside the masjid. So, what do we learn from this? That the Imam and the Ma'mum, everyone should say Ameen out loud when the salah is jahri. Okay? And remember that this is the only statement in the entire salah that the Ma'mum is required to say with the Imam. Okay? Otherwise, when the Imam is reading, saying out loud, the Ma'mum is supposed to be listening. So for example, if the Imam says Allahu Akbar, the Ma'mum should not say Allahu Akbar. No, he's listening. You understand? When the Imam is reciting Surah Al-Fatiha, what is better? That he is listening. Right? But when the Imam is saying Ameen, then the Ma'mum should also say Ameen. Why? In order to get the reward. What is that reward? Inshallah we'll find out. Now many times it happens that as women, when we're praying in a congregation behind the men, okay, then some women, they hesitate in saying Ameen. Should they say Ameen or should they not say Ameen? Okay? If they say Ameen, there's reward. Because if, you remember the hadith? That the angels also say Ameen. So if your Ameen coincides with the Ameen of the angels, your past sins are forgiven. How could you miss that opportunity? And at the same time, if you say Ameen, you wonder that, if the Imam makes a mistake, then you're not supposed to say anything, you're supposed to clap. Right? The men say Subhanallah and the women clap. Right? So, what are you supposed to do? Can you make your Ameen audible? Do you say it out loud or not? It depends on the situation. If the men are many, the women are many, there's no harm in saying Ameen out loud. Out loud as in, so that you're able to hear yourself. Not that you start shouting. Okay? But take advantage of that opportunity and say Ameen. But if, let's say, the situation is such that your husband's friend is there, okay? So there are two men and there are two women praying behind them. And in that situation, if you start saying Ameen out loud, you feel awkward, uncomfortable. Then in that situation, don't say it very loud. Say it very softly like Ameen. But still, say it. But unfortunately, many women, they don't say Ameen at all. They don't say Ameen at all. Whereas they should say it because there's nothing preventing them. Okay? And if they don't say it, they're only depriving themselves of a great opportunity. وَكَانَ أَبُو هُرَيْرَةَ يُنَادِي الْإِمَامَ لَا تَفُتْنِي بِآمِينَ. Abu Hurairah radhiyallahu anhu, he used to yunadi, he used to call out, who? Al-Imam, the Imam. And what would he say to the Imam? لَا تَفُتْنِي بِآمِينَ. Tafutni from faut, meaning don't make me miss the Ameen. Pray slowly, so that I can catch up with you, and I don't miss the Ameen. He wanted to make sure he was part of the prayer when the Imam said Ameen. Now, when did this happen? Remember that when Marwan was the Amir of Medina, he would lead the people in prayer. Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu used to live in Medina at the same time also. Now, Marwan would, being a tabi'i, he was not a sahabi, he was appointed as the Amir, and he would lead the people in prayer. Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, on the other hand, a sahabi, he would not lead the people in prayer. Okay? But Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, what he would do is that when the iqamah was pronounced, he would go around making sure that the rows are straight. He would make sure that the rows are straight. Now Marwan, what did we learn earlier about him? Zayd bin Thabit told him, "What's wrong with you? You recite such short surahs." So we learned that Marwan, what was his habit? That he would rush the prayer. He would rush the prayer. He would recite the Quran very quickly, which is why he selected very short surahs. So what would Marwan do? Iqamah is pronounced, immediately he would begin the salah. He would recite Surah Al-Fatiha very quickly, a short surah, and go into ruku'. And Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu wanted to make sure that the Jama'ah is being performed properly. He would go around straightening the rows, and sometimes by the time he would join the congregation, Surah Al-Fatiha would be over. This is how fast Marwan would lead the prayer. So Abu Hurairah, sometimes he used to call out to Marwan that read slowly, "Don't let me miss Ameen." Does that tell you anything about Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu? Yes, look at his humility. If we were in that position, what would we say? Either let me be imam, or, you know what, I'm going to go somewhere else. Because I am more worthy of this position than you. And if you cannot give me something that befits me, then I'm sorry, I cannot work with you, I cannot cooperate with you. Look at the humility of Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu. Okay, you don't make me imam? Never mind. Never mind. I will do something else to get reward. I will do something else to make sure that people are upon the sunnah, that people are worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala properly. If I cannot lead them, then at least I can make sure that they are performing the salah properly. Whatever contribution he could make, he made it. Look at the humility of the Sahabi. And this is a very, very beautiful quality that, successful people have in their lives, in their personality. That if I cannot do this, then okay, I will do something else. But I will not sit idle. I will not boycott for the sake of boycotting. Because there's no ego over there, right? But from this, we see that Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, how eager he was to be there for Ameen. Because he wanted to make sure that he also said Ameen. Why? To reap the benefits. وَقَالَ نَافِعٌ, and Nafi' said, كَانَ ابْنُ عُمَرَ, Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu, he used to, لَا يَدَعُهُ, he would not leave it. Not leave what? Saying Ameen. Meaning he would always say it. وَيَحُضُّهُمْ, يَحُضُّ, حَضْ, تَحْضِيد, to encourage, to incite. So he would also encourage them, meaning he would encourage the people also to never leave Ameen. That he would tell the people, say Ameen, don't leave it. وَسَمِعْتُ مِنْهُ, and I heard from him. Who's saying this? Nafi' is saying that I heard from Ibn Umar fi ذَلِكَ, concerning that, خَيْرًا or خَبَرًا. خَيْرًا or خَبَرًا. If we understand this as khayran, what does it mean? Good. Meaning, Nafi' is saying, I heard Ibn Umar say many good things about saying Ameen after Surah Al-Fatiha. And if we understand this, if we read this as khabar, then khabar would mean news. Meaning, I have heard many ahadith, many traditions from Ibn Umar, many reports concerning saying Ameen after Surah Al-Fatiha. Now over here you might say, why are there two versions? And this is not the first time that we're coming across this. Earlier also, many times it happens that what I have in front of me is different from what you have in front of yourself. And sometimes you see that the word is slightly different, or it's the same, just the pronunciation is different. So for example, يقرن يقرن. خيرا خبرا. If you look at the words, خيرا خبرا, what's the difference? Just one dot. Just one dot. That's the difference. Okay? Now remember that when Imam Bukhari, when he compiled his book, he didn't say, okay, people come and copy this book from me. No. He would go city to city and he would teach his book. How would he teach it? He would read it out to the people. From where? From his memory. And the students that would be sitting in front of him, what would they do? Writing away. And when they are writing, then what's happening? Obviously, you hear a word, for example, with a waw. And sometimes you hear it without a waw. You heard it one way, somebody else heard it another way. Okay? So, this is the reason why what happened was that certain students of Imam Bukhari, their versions of Sahih Bukhari, they became popular. Okay? So, we have, for example, the version of a particular student of Imam Bukhari. That is what it became known by. Another version, okay, of a student of Imam Bukhari, that is what it became known by. But if you compare them, it's not like the differences are drastic. No, they're not major. They're not major. They're very, very minor. Okay? And you might say that, okay, but khabar, khair, there's, when you're hearing this, there's a difference. There is a huge difference. And if people cannot distinguish between khabar and khair, then you wonder, is the rest of it reliable? This kind of thought, a question, doubt may come in your heart. Remember another thing, that when people would write, they would not necessarily put tashkil. And even now, when Arabs, they write their Arabic, they don't put tashkil. You don't always find it. Right? So when the tashkil is not there, it's very easy to, think of one dot as two dots. Okay? It's very easy to think of two dots as one dot. And if you think about it, when the Arabic text is read, okay, and this you will find in many places, when the Arabic text is read, sometimes one text may be read in two different ways, but it's giving the same meaning. It's giving the same meaning. Okay? For example, the book Fiqh al-Qulub. Okay? This book, I was reading it with someone, and many times it happened that when I would read with them, I would read it in one way, and they would say, no, it's not this way, it's this way. And then she would be like, no, what you read is also fine. You can also read it this way. This way, that way, it's okay. So for example, يَقْرِنُ يَقْرُنُ. It's the same. It's the same. It just depends on the reader, how he reads it. Now one person, when he put tashkil on Bukhari, he put يَقْرِنُ. Another person, when he put tashkil, he put يَقْرُنُ. Means the same thing. Okay? So whenever we come across these differences, remember why these differences are there, and also remember that now, alhamdulillah, when you read the sharh of Bukhari, the explanation, then you will find all the differences. The one who has done the explanation, he has put them together, so that you can have a broader understanding. So have no doubts over here, inshallah. So, what do we learn from this statement of Nafi'? That Ibn Umar, what was his habit? That he would never leave Ameen, and he would encourage the people to say Ameen. And he said that I have heard many good things or many reports concerning the importance of saying Ameen. حدثنا عبد الله بن يوسف قال أخبرنا مالك عن ابن شهاب عن سعيد بن المسيب وأبي سلمة بن عبد الرحمن أنهما أخبراه عن أبي هريرة. So Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, he narrated that أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال إذا أمن الإمام, when the Imam says Ameen, إذا أمن الإمام, when the Imam أمن, he says Ameen, فأمنوا, then you should also say Ameen. Why? فإنه, for indeed he, من وافق تأمينه, whoever's ta'meen corresponds with the ta'meen al-malaika, the ta'meen of the angels, غُفِرَ لَهُ مَا تَقَدَّمَ مِنْ ذَنْبِهِ, then all his previous sins will be forgiven. وقال ابن شهاب وكان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول آمين. Ibn Shihab said the Prophet ﷺ would say ta'meen how? By saying Ameen. Not Ameen or Ameen or Amen. No, Ameen. Now, what do we learn in this hadith? Notice the words إِذَا أَمَّنَ الْإِمَامُ. When the Imam says Ameen, then you should also say Ameen. Some people, they misunderstood this as the Imam should say Ameen first, and then the people should say Ameen. But this is not the way. What it means is that when he reaches the point of Ameen, which is what? The end of Surah Al-Fatiha, غَيْرِ الْمَغْضُوبِ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا الضَّالِّينَ. When he reaches the point of Ta'meen, or when Ameen is supposed to be said, then you should also say Ameen, along with the Imam. Because the angels also say Ameen at that time. Now, what do we learn over here? People can only say Ameen at the same time as the Imam if that Ameen is loud. So, the bab جهر الإمام بالتأمين proven. People can only say Ameen out loud with the Imam if they hear him say. And they can only hear him say Ameen if he said it out loud. So the Imam must say Ameen out loud in the Jahri Salah. Now, what do we learn about the angels from this hadith? That they listen to the recitation, the Salah of the worshipper. They witness it. They listen to it. So much so that when a person reaches the end of Surah Al-Fatiha, the angels also say Ameen. Secondly, we see that the angels also follow the Imam. Because when the Imam says Ameen, not when the Munfarid says Ameen. If a person is praying Salah by himself and he's reciting Surah Al-Fatiha, angels won't say Ameen at that time. But when the Imam is reading, then the angels will say. So what does it show to us? The importance of Jama'ah, congregation. Bab Fadl al-Ta'meen, the excellence, the virtue, the reward, the benefit of saying Ameen. حدثنا عبد الله بن يوسف أخبرنا مالك عن أبي الزناد عن الأعرج عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال إذا قال أحدكم آمين, when one of you says Ameen, وقالت الملائكة في السماء آمين, and the angels in the sky, they say Ameen. Imagine, you're saying Ameen here, and the angels up there are saying Ameen at the same time. Why? Because the angels hear the recitation of the Imam. فَوَافَقَتْ إِحْدَاهُمَا الْأُخْرَى, and one of them corresponds with the other, meaning both say Ameen simultaneously at the same time. غُفِرَ لَهُ مَا تَقَدَّمَ مِنْ ذَنْبِهِ, then all his past sins will be forgiven. So this is a great opportunity. Imagine, all his past sins will be forgiven. Obviously, from other texts we learned that this is the minor sins. You see, major sins, when a person commits them, he knows. Or at least they're easily identified. It's easy to recognize them. It's easy to point them out. Major sins. Because we know about the major sins. But the minor sins are which ones? If I ask you to list minor sins, you won't be able to. Why? Because there are those sins which we don't even consider to be sin. We belittle them. We don't think too much about them. And these are the little sins which are collected just like a group of people go and collect pieces of wood. One person gets 2, another person gets 3, another person gets 1. And when all of them are put together, they're enough to create a huge fire. So likewise, minor sins, here, there, they're enough to destroy a person. So this is a great benefit, that if a person says Ameen at that time, then all his previous sins are forgiven. Bab Jahr al-Ma'mum bit-Ta'meen, saying Ameen aloud by people following an Imam. Jahr, saying aloud, what? By who? Al-Ma'mum. Who is Ma'mum? The follower, the person praying behind the Imam. What is the Ma'mum saying out loud? Ta'meen. Ameen. So Imam has to say out loud. What about the people behind him? حدثنا عبد الله بن مسلمة عن مالك عن سمي مولى أبي بكر عن أبي صالح عن أبي هريرة أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال إذا قال الإمام, The Prophet ﷺ said, when the Imam says, غَيْرِ الْمَغْضُوبِ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا الضَّالِّينَ فَقُولُوا آمِينَ, then you should all say Ameen. فَإِنَّهُ, for indeed he, man whoever وَافَقَ قَوْلُهُ, his qawl, his saying, corresponds with qawl al-malaika, the saying of the angels, the utterance of the angels, meaning it coincides, غُفِرَ لَهُ مَا تَقَدَّمَ مِنْ ذَنْبِهِ, all his previous sins will be forgiven. تابعه محمد بن عمرو عن أبي سلمة عن أبي هريرة عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم ونعيم المجمر عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه. So over here basically Imam Bukhari is mentioning another chain of the same hadith. Now this hadith is more complete. It clarifies further how the Ameen has to be pronounced. That Ameen has to be said with the Imam and the angels. And that will be when? When the Imam says غَيْرِ الْمَغْضُوبِ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا الضَّالِّينَ, after that. So it means together. Together. Imam will say loudly, the Ma'moom will say loudly. Obviously, you have to hear him say, okay? So as soon as he begins, then you say. Don't precede him. Don't say Ameen before the Imam. Why? Because if you say it before him, you're not saying with him. Likewise, if you say it after him, you're not saying it with him. When can a person say Ameen with the Imam? When he's really paying attention. Right? When he's really paying attention. He's waiting for the Imam to say غَيْرِ الْمَغْضُوبِ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا الضَّالِّينَ, and as soon as he hears, he will say Ameen along with the Imam. So this reward is only for those who pay attention. And in this is also a reminder for those who are leading, that they should say Ameen loud and clear, so that the people behind them can say Ameen loud and clear. So if your brother, husband, son, someone leads, whether at home or in a congregation, then remind them to say Ameen loudly, so that other people can take benefit. Now with this, the abwab concerning Ta'meen, they are concluded. Any question about Ameen before we continue? Yeah, it's the same thing. That when a group of women are praying together, same thing. That the woman who's leading, she's saying Surah Al-Fatiha out loud, and she will also say Ameen out loud, just as she recited Surah Al-Fatiha. And the women who are with her, they should also say Ameen with her at the same time, loud. Now in Qiyam, what is it that we have learned so far? About istiftah, about where the hands should be, about ta'awudh, about Surah Al-Fatiha, right? About qira'ah, recitation, Ameen. What's after Qiyam? Ruku'. So with regards to ruku', Imam Bukhari says, Bab إِذَا رَكَعَ دُونَ الصَّفِّ. When someone does ruku' دُونَ الصَّفِّ. Duna. What does duna mean? Behind. Behind the saf. So people are praying together in a saf. Okay? And a man comes in order to join the jama'ah, and he sees that the people are in ruku'. So he goes into ruku' at the door of the masjid, and he walks in the position of ruku' to the saf, and he joins them. Why would he do that? Because he wants to join the prayer as soon as possible, so that he does not miss any reward. But is this permissible? Let's find out. حدثنا موسى بن إسماعيل قال حدثنا همام عن الأعلم وهو زياد عن الحسن عن أبي بكرة أنه, that indeed he, who? Abu Bakr, a companion, indeed he, انتهى إلى النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم, he reached the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم وهو راكع, while he was rakir, meaning the Prophet ﷺ was in ruku'. So by the time he reached the jama'ah, the Prophet ﷺ was in ruku'. فَرَكَعَ, so he went into ruku', قَبْلَ, before, أَن يَصِلَ إِلَى الصَّفِ, that he joined the saf. يَصِلَ, from wasala. What does wasala mean? To join. So before even he joined the row, he went into ruku'. He went into ruku' and then he joined the saf. فَذَكَرَ ذَلِكَ لِلنَّبِيِّ صَلَى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ. He mentioned that to the Prophet ﷺ. I did this. Is it okay? فَقَالَ, so he said, زَادَكَ اللَّهُ حِرْصًا وَلَا تَعُدْ. زَادَكَ, may He increase you, from ziyada. Allahu Allah, may Allah increase you, حِرْصًا, in zeal, in enthusiasm, in greed. Greed for what? Reward. May Allah increase your zeal. وَلَا تَعُدْ. But don't repeat this, meaning don't do this again. This is not right. You should join the saf first and then go into ruku or sajda or whatever position the congregation is in. So, what do we learn from this? That it is not allowed to do that. And that the Prophet ﷺ, first of all, look at how beautifully the Prophet ﷺ is correcting him. He said, no, this is not right. This is wrong. You should not do it. You see, the Prophet ﷺ understood the mentality of people. Why they're doing something. He appreciated the enthusiasm. He appreciated the zeal. And he gave him dua, may Allah only increase you in your zeal. However, being overzealous over here, that is not appropriate. So don't do this. Abu Bakr. This is different from Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. Okay, this is Abu Bakr. Now, some people, they have used this hadith to prove, and this is a very common opinion, an opinion held by many famous scholars, that based on this hadith, if a person joins in the ruku', then he has caught the rak'ah. You understand? Because Abu Bakr, he didn't want to miss the ruku'. So he went in ruku' and then walked up to the saf. Why? Because he wanted to catch that rak'ah. Okay? So, this is why they said that if a person joins the jama'ah in ruku', then he has not missed the rak'ah, he does not need to repeat it. However, as popular this opinion is, and as popular this hadith is, that opinion is based on, it's necessary to understand this hadith. First of all, we see that the reason why Abu Bakr did this was because he was eager to join the prayer so as to not miss any more of it. How do we understand this? The words of the Prophet ﷺ. زَادَكَ اللَّهُ حِرْصًا. Okay? And if it was understood as not missing the rak'ah, then that is not kind of hirs. That's the exact opposite. That you don't want to repeat an entire rak'ah. You will have to do less. You understand? It's the opposite of hirs. Hirs means you want to get as more as possible. But when you're just joining in ruku', you miss the entire qiyam. You've lost on a major part of the prayer. Okay? So that's the exact opposite of the hirs. You understand? You get my point? So the Prophet ﷺ, his words, they show the reason why Abu Bakr did this was because he was eager for reward. Okay? Secondly, we see that the Prophet ﷺ told him not to do this again. Not to do this again. Which shows that it is not permissible to enter the salah in this way. What? That you go into ruku' and then join the saf. Which means that if a person does that he goes into ruku' and then joins the saf, he's doing something that is prohibited. Because the Prophet ﷺ forbade. He's doing something that is prohibited then. Okay? And if he's doing something that is prohibited, how can a rukn of salah be accomplished by doing something prohibited? You understand? Like for example, a person wants to give sadaqah. Okay? Can he get the reward of sadaqah by doing something prohibited? Like for example, he goes and steals somebody's money. This is haram. And then he gives that in sadaqah. Will he get the reward of sadaqah? No. Why? Because he is doing that by doing something prohibited. Okay? So, when Abu Bakr entered the salah in this way, his ruku' was not valid. His ruku' was not valid. Because the Prophet ﷺ forbade him later from doing that, right? So his ruku' was not valid. So, this is why this hadith cannot be used as proof for rak'ah being complete by catching the ruku'. And thirdly, another evidence is that there is no mention of whether or not Abu Bakr, performed that rak'ah later or not. When there is no mention, we cannot assume anything. We cannot take this as evidence. We have to find something else as evidence. And what is evidence for us? The fact that in every rak'ah, Suratul Fatiha has to be recited. Either a person recites it himself or he hears a recitation of the Imam. And there's many ahadith that prove that, and you've come across so many of them. And if a person joins a salah in ruku', then he missed Fatiha. When he missed Fatiha, then his rak'ah was not complete. When his rak'ah was not complete, what does it mean? He has to make it up later on. So both of these opinions exist, and as you can see, one is more popular, but when you analyze the hadith, the proof that is being taken, it seems like the other is more strong. Allahu A'lam. Bab itmam al-takbir fi al-ruku'. Itmam al-takbir fi al-ruku'. Itmam. What does itmam mean? To complete. At-takbir, takbir saying Allahu Akbar, fi al-ruku', in ruku'. What does it mean by this? It means that when a person is going into ruku', he should complete saying the takbir when? When he enters the ruku'. So it shouldn't be that he says Allahu Akbar, he straightens his hands, and then he goes down into ruku'. No. He should say Allahu Akbar, and at the same time do ruku', and by the time he goes into the position of ruku', he should complete saying the takbir. You understand? So the takbir should not be before going down into ruku', nor should it be after going down into ruku'. It should be started when a person is going down to ruku', and it should be completed when? When he reaches the position of ruku'. Now, of course, there will be times when it's a little up and down. No big deal. Okay? Another understanding of this bab, some scholars have said that what Imam Bukhari meant was, itmam al-takbir fi ruku' is that the takbirat are complete with the takbir of ruku'. Now, in salah, in every rak'ah, there are a certain number of takbirat. Right? So, for example, when you begin the salah, Allahu Akbar. Then when you go down into ruku', Allahu Akbar. When you get up from ruku', you don't say Allahu Akbar, but what do you say? Sami' Allahu liman hamida. Then when you go into sajda, Allahu Akbar. When you get up from sajda, Allahu Akbar. When you go down to sajda again, Allahu Akbar. When you get up from sajda into the second rak'ah, again Allahu Akbar. Right? So there's a certain number of takbirat. And they will only be complete when takbir is pronounced for ruku'. So what Imam Bukhari is proving over here is that takbir should be said when going into ruku'. It should be said when going into ruku'. Earlier what we learned at the beginning of this book was raising of the hands. Here we are learning about pronouncing the takbir. قاله Ibn Abbas. Ibn Abbas said this. عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم, from the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم. And فيه مالك بن الحويرث. And there is another narration of Malik bin Huwayrith that proves this. Now, what are those proofs? Imam Bukhari does not mention them all over here. He just quotes them as evidence. Okay? Now, the statement of Ibn Abbas anhu, that comes later in Bab at-Takbir إِذَا قَامَ مِنَ السُّجُودِ, that Imam Bukhari is just referring to here, but the complete version will be mentioned later. And the hadith of Malik bin Huwayrith, that is also mentioned later in Bab al-Makth bayna sajdatayn. Al-Makth bayna sajdatayn, the sitting between two sajdas. So he's just referring to those proofs over here. حدثنا إسحاق الواسطي قال حدثنا خالد عن الجريري عن أبي العلاء عن مطرف عن عمران بن حسين قال صلى مع علي رضي الله عنه. So Imran bin Husayn, he said that he prayed with Ali radiallahu anhu بالبصرة at Basra. فقال, and then he said, ذكرنا هذا الرجل, this man reminded us, salatan, of the prayer, كنا نصليها, which we used to pray, مع رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, with the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم. فذكر, and he mentioned that أنه كان, that he used to يكبر, he would say the takbir, كلما رفع وكلما وضع, every time he got up and every time he went down. Every time he got up and every time he went down. When a person is going down, what does it mean? Either he's going down into ruku' or he's going down to sajda. So he said takbir when doing that. And every time he got up, when a person is getting up, he's either getting up from sajda, or he's getting up from tashahhud, or he's getting up from ruku'. So he said takbir. Now obviously for ruku', it's understood that you don't say Allahu Akbar, but you say Sami' Allahu liman hamida. Right? So Imran bin Hussein said about the prayer of Ali radiallahu anhu, he reminded me of the prayer of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, every time he went up or down, what would he say? Allahu Akbar. So from this, we learn about the obligation of takbir. That each time a person shifts from one rukn of salah to another, takbir has to be pronounced, because this is what the Prophet ﷺ did. حدثنا عبد الله بن يوسف قال أخبرنا مالك عن ابن شهاب عن أبي سلمة عن أبي هريرة أنه كان يصلي بهم. Abu Hurairah رضي الله عنه, once he was praying with them, فيكبر, and he would say the takbir, كلما خفض ورفع, every time he went down and he got up. So again, ruku or sajda, going down, getting up from there. Every time he did that, he would say takbir. فإذا انصرف, then when he finished, meaning when he finished the prayer, قال, he said, إني, indeed I, لأشبهكم, la, surely, أشبه, أفعل, one who resembles most, kum, among you, salatan, in prayer, برسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, with the Messenger of Allah صلى الله عليه وسلم. Meaning, my prayer is the most similar to the prayer of the Prophet ﷺ. Meaning amongst all of us present here, the way I performed the prayer was the way the Prophet ﷺ used to perform the prayer. Is he showing off over here? No. He's teaching them that my prayer resembles the prayer of the Prophet ﷺ because I saw him pray like this. I heard him. And I memorized that way. And that is how I performed the prayer. I asked him. I learned from him. So, you should follow me. And what is it that he was teaching them here? That going, whenever transitioning from one position to another, what should be said? Allahu Akbar. Bab itmam at-takbir fi sujud, completing the takbir in sajda. Same thing. That when a person is going down into sajda, he should say takbir in such a way that begins and ends, in that manner. And secondly, the takbirat of sajda, if they are not pronounced, then the takbirat of the salah are incomplete. Okay? They're not complete. حدثنا أبو النعمان قال حدثنا حماد عن غيلان بن جرير عن مطرف بن عبد الله قال صليت خلف علي بن أبي طالب. So Mutarrif, he said that I prayed behind Ali ibn Abi Talib رضي الله عنه. أنا وعمران بن حسين. I and Imran bin Hussein. فكان إذا سجد كبر. So Ali, when he went down into sajda, he kabbara, he said the takbir. وَإِذَا رَفَعَ رَأْسَهُ, and when he raised his head, meaning when he got up, kabbara, again he said takbir. وَإِذَا نَهَضَ مِنَ الرَّكْعَتَيْنِ, when he got up from the 2 rak'ah, meaning from the tashahhud, again kabbara, he said the takbir. فَلَمَّا قَضَى الصَّلَاةَ, then when he finished the prayer, when the prayer was over, أَخَذَ بِيَدِي, he took my hand. Who? Imran ibn Hussein. Imran bin Hussein held my hand. Who's saying this? Mutarrif. Because Mutarrif said that I and Imran bin Hussein prayed behind Ali. And he described the prayer of Ali. So after the prayer, Imran bin Hussein grabbed the hand of Mutarrif and he said, فَقَالَ, and then he said, قَدْ ذَكَّرَنِي هَذَا, this man reminded me of Salat Muhammadin sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, of the prayer of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. أو قال, or he said, لَقَدْ صَلَّى بِنَا صَلَاةَ مُحَمَّدٍ صَلَى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ, or he prayed with us the prayer of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So again we learn from this that takbirat have to be pronounced for sajda. حدثنا عمرو بن عون قال حدثنا هشيم عن أبي بشر عن عكرمة قال رأيت رجلا. Ikrima. Who is Ikrima? Student of a Sahabi. Which one? Ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhu. Okay. So Ikrima, he said that رأيت رجلا, I saw a man. عند المقام, near the maqam. Which maqam is this? Maqam Ibrahim. So where is this? In Makkah, in the Haram. He said, I saw a man, he was praying salah near the maqam, yukabbiru, and he was saying takbir, fi kulli khafdin wa raf'in wa idha qama wa idha wada'a. He said the takbir in each khafd. What does khafd mean? Khafidatur rafi'a. Khafida, one that brings down. So khafd, going down. Wa raf'in, going up. Wa idha qama, and when he stood up from a sitting position. Wa idha wada'a, and when he put down, meaning when he went down from standing position. Okay? So khafd wa raf, it refers to the ruku'. Khafd and raf refers to the ruku'. And qama wa wada'a refers to getting up from sajda into standing position or from sitting position. And wada'a going down into sajda from standing position. You understand? Because khafd, raf' is to bring down, bring up. Okay? And qama, stand up. Obviously you stand up from what? Sitting position. Or sajda position. Okay? فَأَخْبَرْتُ ابْنَ عَبَّاسِ. He said, I told Ibn Abbas about this. That I saw this man saying takbir every time. قال رضي الله عنه قال Ibn Abbas, he said, أَوَ لَيْسَ تِلْكَ صَلَاةَ النَّبِيِّ صَلَى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وسلم لَا أُمَّ لَكَ. He said, is this not the prayer of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam? La umma lak, may you have no mother. Meaning, what's wrong with you? Of course. Now, la umma lak, what does it mean? May you have no mother. Meaning, may you lose your mother. Now, if you take this expression literally, it's very harsh. But we see that this expression, you hear it quite often in many ahadith. Right? Also, sakilatka ummak, or sakilatki ummuki, that may your mother lose you. May your mother lose you. So that she becomes sad and grieves over your loss. The Prophet ﷺ said this to a companion. You know that? What does this teach us about expressions? That they should not be taken literally. Okay? It's very important to not take expressions literally. Because if you start taking them literally, then, this expression also seems very offensive. Whereas the companions are saying them. The Prophet ﷺ is saying them. So, we see that when it comes to language, really, you have to keep in mind how it is that people understand certain words. How is it that they understand certain expressions? Do they take them literally or do they not take them literally? Okay, you have to see what is ma'ruf, what is culturally acceptable. Okay? So for example, if someone says to you in English, may your mother die. This is very offensive. How dare you? You're making dua against me? You could almost say that this is a sin. This is extremely bad manners. This is of the worst etiquettes. That you're praying for the death of someone's mother. In our culture, not acceptable at all. But in that culture, at that time, if someone says, La umma lak, then it's not to be taken literally. It's like, oh, okay. Now, in English, people say, what the hell? It's quite common. Now, personally, I hate this expression. Because hell is very serious to me. You can't trivialize hell by using hell, hell, hell all the time on every little thing. Alright? But if you start taking this expression literally every time, then you'll be very disturbed when you speak to teenagers. And you won't be able to carry any conversation with them because you'd be offended every time they speak to you. Right? So, this is a very important point that we have to understand when we're dealing with people. Don't take expressions literally. Okay? So in this hadith, what do we learn? That Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, he approved the action of this man, which was saying takbir with every movement. Okay. Bab at-takbiri idha qama min as-sujud. Saying the takbir when rising from the sajda, meaning from when getting up from the sajda. حدثنا موسى بن إسماعيل قال أخبرنا همام عن قتادة عن عكرمة. Same incident, but different narration, so different words and different details. قال صليت خلف شيخ بمكة. Ikrimah said that I prayed behind a shaykh, meaning an elderly man, بمكة, at Makkah, in Makkah. The earlier hadith, what was that? Ikrimah is saying that someone was praying by the maqam. This tells us that he was praying behind him, behind the maqam. Okay? فكبر, so he did takbir, سنتين وعشرين تكبيرة, 22 times. He did takbir 22 times in the salah. فقلت لابن عباس إنه أحمق. So I said to Ibn Abbas, this man's crazy. He's saying takbir 22 times in the salah. فقال, Ibn Abbas said, سَكِلَتْكَ أُمُّكَ. May your mother lose you. Sunnatu Abil Qasim sallallahu alayhi wasallam. This was the sunnah of Abu al-Qasim, meaning of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam. وقال موسى حدثنا أبان حدثنا قتادة حدثنا عكرمة. Now, who was this man who was praying salah like this? It was Abu Hurairah radhiyallahu anhu. Okay, as we learn from other reports of the same incident, Abu Hurairah radhiyallahu anhu performed the salah like this. Every time he got up, went down, he said the takbir. And how many times was it in total? 22 times. How? In every rak'ah, there are 5 takbirat. Now obviously one of them is Sami' Allahu liman hamida. Okay? How are there 5? First of all, when you go down into ruku'. Okay? Secondly, when you get up from ruku'. You don't say Allahu Akbar, you say Sami' Allahu liman hamida. But you know when you have only one thing different, then you just generalize. Okay? Third takbir is when going down into sajda. Fourth takbir is when getting up from sajda. And the fifth takbir is when going down into the second sajda. So repeat again. Going into ruku', getting up from ruku', going down to sajda, getting up from sajda, and then going down into second sajda. Multiply that by 5. Actually, the ruku', leave that. That's not part of the 5. Okay? When you get up from sajda, the second sajda, that is what? The fifth one. Erase everything, start again. Going into ruku', going into sajda, getting up from sajda, going down to second sajda, getting up from second sajda. 5 takbirat. Okay? Now this is something that is consistent throughout the 4 rak'ahs. So how many do you have? 20. Now what are these 2 more? Firstly, the first takbir, that's 21. And then, when you get up from the second rak'ah, you say Allahu Akbar. When you get up from sajda, you sit in tashahhud, you say tashahhud, and then you stand up and you say Allahu Akbar. So that's another takbir. So how many? 22. So 22 takbirat, Ikrimah heard him say. And he said, what's going on? And he said, Innahu ahmaq. He was very quick to pass a judgment. And he didn't even realize that was a companion of the Prophet ﷺ. And he was right. And Ibn Abbas got more upset with him. He said, Thakilatka ummuk. Earlier, in the other report we learned, La umma lak. This is the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Isn't this how the prayer is supposed to be performed? So what do we learn from this? That just because we don't know something, just because we see somebody doing something we don't know about, don't think they are wrong. Don't think they are wrong. Don't just assume that you know better. Just because you studied a little bit of fiqh of salah once upon a time, so you think you were a master of fiqh of salah. Okay? I mean, things that you know are incorrect, that's different. But again, don't say things like, innahu ahmaq. Okay? And secondly, when you don't know about something, don't be quick, to say, this is wrong, this is not part of salah, this is against the sunnah. No. Be patient over there. And find out, research. And when you will find out, investigate, you might learn something new. حدثنا يحيى بن بكير قال حدثنا الليث عن عقيل عن ابن شهاب قال أخبرني أبو بكر بن عبد الرحمن بن الحارث أنه سمع أبا هريرة يقول, he said, كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا قام إلى الصلاة, when the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم would stand for prayer, Abu Hurairah said, يكبر حين يقوم. He would say takbir when he would stand. ثم يكبر حين يركع. Then he would say takbir when he would go down into ruku'. ثم يقول سمع الله لمن حمده. When he would get up from ruku', he would say سمع الله لمن حمده. حين يرفع. When he would lift up صلبه. صلبه, his back. Meaning when he would straighten his back, in other words, get up from ruku' into standing position, he would say سمع الله لمن حمده. من الركع, from the rak'ah. ثم يقول, then he would say وهو قائم, while he would be standing, ربنا لك الحمد. قال عبد الله ibn Salih عن الليث ولك الحمد. He said, the Prophet ﷺ would say, رَبَّنَا وَلَكَ الْحَمْدِ. So in one narration, رَبَّنَا لَكَ الْحَمْدِ. In another narration, رَبَّنَا وَلَكَ الْحَمْدِ. ثُمَّ يُكَبِّرُ حِينَ يَهْوِي. Then he would say takbir when he would yahwi. Yahwi, وَالنَّجْمِ إِذَا هَوَى, to come down. So when he would go down into sajda. Do you have yahwi? Yahwi or yahwi? Yahwi. Okay. ثم يكبر حين يرفع رأسه. Then he would again say takbir when he would lift up his head. ثم يكبر حين يسجد. Then he would say takbir when he would go down to sajda. ثم يكبر حين يرفع رأسه. Then he would say takbir again when he would get up from his sajda, meaning when he would lift up his head. ثم يفعل ذلك في الصلاة كلها. Then he would repeat this, he would say this in the entire prayer حتى يقضيها, until he completed the prayer. ويكبر حين يقوم. And he would also say takbir when he would stand up من الثنتين بعد الجلوس, from the 2 rak'ah after julus, after sitting position, meaning after the tashahhud, after the first tashahhud, when he would get up, he would also say takbir. So this hadith clarifies how it was 22 takbirat. So what do we learn? That these 22 takbirat are essential. If a person leaves any of them out, then his salah is deficient, it is lacking, it is incomplete. Now inshallah, we will learn about ruku'. Okay? So this was a little bit about going into ruku'. First of all, how do you go into ruku'? Not away from the saf. And secondly, you have to say the takbir. Now when you go into ruku', where do you put your hands? What do you say in ruku'? Inshallah, we will learn about that in the next class, inshallah. And for that, remember that in ruku' also there are certain adhkar that have to be said. So you're going to be getting a new sheet very soon. Okay, inshallah. So make sure that whatever dua you want to memorize, especially if istiftah, okay, at least one. At least one. If not all of them, at least one. Okay? So let's aim to complete the memorization. Tomorrow, inshallah, also I'll give you some time to memorize. Okay? سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.